and welcome back to episode 5 of the FIDE podcast with no regular name. Today we have a very special guest. We're going to be joined by one of the most prominent chess coaches in the world at the moment. It's Grandmaster Ramesh and also Peter Heine-Nielsen. So, Ramesh, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, Michael. Nice to be on this show. And hello, Peter.
Hi, thanks for coming.
Thanks. So today we're going to do a bit of an interview. We're going to talk about, different things, aspects around chess coaching. You've both been interviewed many times before about, your lives and what you do. But the first thing I wanted to start with is, even though we say you're both chess coaches, I think you probably have quite different roles as chess coaches. And I wanted to start off by asking you, Ramesh, on a kind of in a regular day, what is your life like as a chess coach? What's your kind of regular routine?
Yeah, it's evolving, I should say. But for most part of my career as a coach, barring the last 1 year or so, it's like I start my lessons at 5 in the morning. And because I have some students in the US for whom it is evening and it is morning in India. So I start my classes quite early. And it goes probably like 5 to 8 like this, and then I have a couple of hours break, and then the players from all over India, they come to Chennai to our place, and we have some training sessions. Probably it will be like 9:30 to 1:30, and then we'll have an hour's break, then a different group comes, and 2 to 5, something like this, and sometimes some evening sessions thrown in as well, 5:30, 7:30. So it's like probably anywhere from 10 to 14 hours of training.
Okay, wow, that is extremely different from Peter's usual schedule, which is to get up in the morning, play some golf. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Get up in the morning, he tweets at FIDE, then he plays golf, then he tweets at FIDE from the golf course, then he sends Magnus a file of some openings, and then just relaxes for the rest of the day, I think.
Something like that. I mean, yeah, it's true. I mean, well, my situation is completely different. For the last 15 years, I've basically been working for just one person at the time, first Vichy and then Magnus. And I think earlier this year, I met with Ramesh at a training camp in Norway. It was very interesting to talk and compare some notes. But of course, our situations are extremely different. And maybe also our philosophies, or rather, I mean, I don't really have a philosophy, but I noticed at this training camp that Ramesh basically he was willing to do a lesson all the time, had so much ready material, while I have barely given a lesson in 5 years. It was very unusual for me. So I thought that while we are both chess coaches, there's also very different, very huge differences in a way. But well, you're right. My job is more to think of opening ideas, concepts. Today, I mean, Magnus is actually playing in Toronto, sort of later tonight. So I was actually working at some kind of file before, but I still find time to do a podcast with you guys. I will sort of finish off the job. So it is extremely different in a way, and it's. Well, it's very. I'm very curious to hear about Ramesh. How he has. Well, he gets to form players very early and very successfully. I hope it's going to be interesting for the listeners.
Yeah, so I mean, my second question was going to be, is it easier being a second than a trainer? But I guess that's pretty much answered itself already.
Well, it's different, but my feeling is also, Ramesh, you also a second at times, right?
Yeah, as I mentioned, my schedule has been evolving during the last 1 or 2 years. As you might have noticed, Pragnananda has grown phenomenally in the last couple of years. He has grown much faster than we anticipated, and he's in a completely different league. And as a trainer, I'm also trying to adapt my methodologies and also to be still relevant in his career. And Peter has a lot of experience at this level, so I'm very curious to know how to handle players at this level. So I'm also here to learn from Peter.
Well, let me ask first. How is the? It sounds wrong, but the power relationship with your students and with Pragnananda, especially. I mean, who is the boss? I mean, for me, it's clear. I worked with Vichy. I worked with Magnus. I'm not there to tell them how to do. I'm more there to supplement and inflict their wishes. But you've worked with Prague since he was extremely young. It must
Yeah.
be strange.
Actually, it's a natural evolution, I would say. It's more like a father son relationship as well in some aspects, because I have been working with him since he was like 7.5 years old. So I still remember him as a very small kid with whom I have played a hide and seek more as well. So when in India, the first cultural difference I would say is like the teachers or the professors, they are or coaches, whatever term we want to use, they are in general considered as a respectful profession, and they need to be respected. So typically in India, the students call their teachers as sir with a surname. Yeah, so that's very common. So it's not a friend kind of relationship. So there is always that looking up to kind of relationship from the students towards the teacher. And in the last few years, okay, so probably like even 5 years ago, he has become much stronger than me in every aspect of chess. So my role is trying to understand his areas, but probably will be coming to this later. As far as the relationship goes, like we are still having a training camp now for the candidates. We have started our preparation, and we are having the lunch break now. And so for me, like he still gives a lot of value to my opinions on many aspects of chess. But technically, just strength wise, he is much stronger than me. So I usually take the help of the engines, and basically, I try to make him go through difficult situations or tough situations and handle them. So that way, I'm trying to contribute. But he still listens to my opinion about how I view the strength of the other players, strengths and weaknesses. How do we identify work, but base our strategies? In all this, he still listens to me. Yeah, now we are becoming more of friends. Yeah, it's an evolving relationship, I would say.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And also, when you started coaching, I guess you had never really worked with a player of Pragnananda's level that he is now. So that must have been like quite a steep learning curve for you, because like the things that you have to do to work with a 2700 player, I guess, are quite different from someone who's lower rated than yourself.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I also work with a few other players. I'm not sure how well the chess world knows them. For example, like Arvind Chidambaram or Karthikeyan Murli, they're all around 2620 to 2650 level.
Mm-hmm.
And I also worked with the Indian team for the last 12 years, where most of the top players of the India, who are all above 2700, been there. So a lot of experience working with them. We have had many training camps before the Olympiads. So
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm a quick learner myself, and and with the help of technology, it's much easier to deliver what they demand.
I mean,
Yep.
you have managed to grow a lot of incredible strong players. I mean, something that we don't really see in Europe. Well, what is the secret? I mean, is it a numbers game? Simply, there are so many talents in India that the best will be, or is it work ethics from you, work ethics from them? How do you see this boom happening?
No, I don't see it as a number game. It's not like India suddenly got a huge population in the last 5 or 10 years. It was always there. The big numbers were always there. So I don't think it's a number game. It's basically a lot of things. One thing I would say is like when I decided to become a full-time trainer around 17, 18 years ago, the first thing I did is like stop reading chess books, because as a player I have read a lot of chess books, and eventually I realized like the books are written by humans, and most of the things they write about is their personal opinion. And that's how they look at things, and they bring it on the book. So I wanted to firsthand, as a player, I have gone through many difficult situations myself, and for many such situations, I did not know what to do. Frankly, I was feeling helpless, and I did not know how to approach these issues, and I did not know whether my perceptions about these issues were right or wrong. So it was very unclear situation, and when I decided to become a trainer, I saw that everyone around has similar issues, and they all just have opinions on various factors. For example, like if someone is playing very quickly, and let's imagine a situation if a young child comes out of the playing hall after 10 minutes of the games began and told the parents, I have lost this game, then mostly the parents will say like, you don't have the patience, or you're not serious about the game, you're playing too fast. So they can be easily judged. Now imagine if the child was young Anand, he was incredibly fast, right? So for many issues we really don't know whether something is good or right, good or wrong. So I decided to first hand experience my students' issues, and I give a lot of importance to the psychological aspect. So how I see is the decisions we take over the board, the moves we play, they are the outcome of a certain thinking process in our head. So there's sort of things happening in our head before a move is made, and I try to focus on those aspects. What's the kind of thinking process they go through, and also how the personality of the player involved influences those decisions. For example, if some players naturally they don't like to go for complications or take risk by nature, and there are many who will be willingly going for risky situations and so on. So how this can these be influenced? uh, so I believe like chess is a learnable game, and everything can be learned in chess. But when we all begin, we have certain strengths, and I wouldn't call weaknesses, but in some areas we are not good, because I believe weaknesses appear much later. It's like we start with a blank slate, you can say, and then we start filling it up, and some areas are not filled, and those become our weak areas eventually. So we have some strengths and many areas where we are not good at, and then it's about the journey is about how we, on one side, we grow in the areas we feel comfortable and good at, and on the other side, how we effectively we learn the areas which we don't like. For example, some players, especially players who like to attack, they don't like to go to endgame very often or play close positions, let's say. Now, can these be learned? Can these be taught? So this is basically my whole journey as a trainer is about, can things which we are not good at, which we don't like, can we still learn them? And as a trainer, can I effectively teach them?
So a lot of things I would like to ask about here. I've almost forgotten, but well, I worked with Wishy, and well, you talk about the importance of psychological aspects and such, but how do you talk with players about that? Because my feeling is generally people don't really like to talk about such things. I mean, I'm genuinely curious that you actually get to have conversations with your players about things that must be extremely uncomfortable for them. I mean, I would just generally avoid it, but you seem to actually go for that. How does that pan out?
Yeah, one thing I realized is like okay, the last couple of years I've been working more with players in the West. I'm coming very often to Norway. I'm working with some players there, and I also travel. I have some other students in rest of the Europe and many students in the US as well. So there is a clear this difference is very visible with the Indian players. It's very natural to have these kind of conversations. They actually enjoy these conversations, talking about in my view, these are the critical issues. So the way I see is like there are many players who are at the top. Let's say over 60, 2600. Let's say if we consider them very strong, then we have probably around 200 or 250 players in the world who have crossed this 2600 barrier, and maybe 99.9% of the players have not even reached over 2000, probably, right? The number is extremely less. The majority of them have not even crossed to 2000, and there is a very small group who has crossed 2600 who have excelled. So and I think like it is very clear, it is not like chess is such a difficult game that only very few can master. How I see is like most of us have not learned to address the critical issues. When I talk with many players from the West, the impression I get is like most of them believe those who are good at are extremely talented, and those who are not doing well, they are not talented. Something like this. So I
Mhm.
strongly believe chess can be learned in a more efficient manner, and I believe like with proper training most of us can become grandmasters. We don't need special talent, and I believe the special talent comes in kicks in only at two phases. One, at the beginning of the career when we are introduced to chess, some children it just comes naturally, but after that, let's say from around 1400 to becoming a grandmaster, it is less to do with the talent but more to do with the mental toughness, the how they learn the game, the work ethics, the discipline, and so on. So if we can, and these are all something that can be learnt. Hard work can be learnt, mental toughness can be learnt, and it is possible if we have some basic talent. Most of us can become grandmasters, and in my humble opinion, I have shown it in real life as well. So I've worked with many young children and they have become grandmasters. So I think chess can be properly taught and properly learned. And one missing aspect is the psychology. So we are just looking at this small number of over 2600 who have excelled, and they have found these important issues. It has somehow they have learned these things, and most others have not learned these things. That's why they are not turning up very strong eventually. But in the West, as you mentioned, it's not easy to have this kind of conversation. But I strongly believe like these conversations should be had. So when I work with the students from the West, I tell them I'm coming from a different background, and for me, these are critical issues as well. And I recently worked with a player from the West who is a grandmaster about 2600, and we had a 5 day training camp. And for 3.5 days, we did not see chess at all. We were just discussing all these psychological issues.
Yeah, that's really really interesting. And like, so you said that you think anyone can become a grandmaster. Does that apply even to like people who learn chess as an adult, like someone who maybe picks up the game in their 20s?
I think, okay, so first thing, I'm not very qualified to talk about this because I have not worked much with players over 20 for the first time. I've done some experiments. I've worked with players over 50, over 60, over 40, over 30, and I tried to help them, but I was not very effective with adult learners. So for me, I believe the most of the base is formed when we are very young. So probably the
Mm-hmm.
best, the main philosophies of the game, the work ethics, what we think about the important issues in chess, they are all formed at a very young age, I believe, probably
Mm-hmm.
between 8 to 14 or so. And if we have a very strong base at this time, the learning can happen seamlessly on top of that.
Okay.
I mean, I have basically been traveling around telling this story about, well, Magnus becoming great based on the Scandinavian concept in terms of that. For instance, when I was traveling him to the candidates tournament, I forgot if he was 14, perhaps. His dad was telling me, okay, chess Magnus does for fun. If he doesn't want to work on chess, doesn't want to prepare on chess, you're not allowed to push him. I was in Siberia with him for like three weeks as his second, and this was basically the rule. And this has basically been the rules ever since. That, well, he does it voluntarily, and that can be a world championship match or whatever. We do it on his premises, and I'm not allowed to push him one bit. No, I'm just curious that it is so different. I mean, how do would you see that from your perspective?
Yeah, so this also I'm very familiar, this kind of thinking process, that I also feel like many in the West see that children should be taught just the way they want to be taught, and we cannot push them. But the word push can have a negative connotation as well, isn't it? It's like you're doing something against their wish, or even if they want it, maybe it is not good for them. So, yeah, I understand this reservation, and that is probably, in my view, one of the reason why many strong players have not come. few young players coming up. But I believe in India, like, how to say, we value hard work as a virtue. So hard work is not something we look at it with a negative connotation. It's We don't see it as pushing the child. For example, let's say in the case of Prag, Vaishali, or Arvind, or many of the kids I've worked with, they genuinely love chess. Chess makes them happy, and so they want to learn more, and it is coming from their side, and I'm trying to meet their demands as well as I can, and spending a lot of hours. Like Prague, when he was young, he used to spend probably 6 to 8 hours on chess practice, even when he was like a 8-year-old child. And it was not because I was pushing him to do so, but he just felt like, okay, this is what his life is meant to be. It just came naturally to him. So I believe, like, if someone wants to be a specialist, we have to invest time in that activity. That's how I see. If someone is very ambitious but doesn't want to invest the required amount of effort, then it's just a wishful thinking, and that's what usually happens with many. Everyone wants to be a world champion or a grandmaster, but they probably invest 10 or 20% of the effort they should be. So I just believe, like, if the ambition is high, proportionately the work we do should be matching.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the questions I wanted to ask is about actually playing chess as a coach. And I think like we have this kind of unusual thing in chess compared to other sports, whereas a lot of chess coaches are still either active or semi-active players. And I wondered, like, do you think there's a benefit to the coach continuing their playing career, or do you think it's, to just keep in touch with the game to kind of be more active and have a kind of deeper connection with what the students are going through at the time? Or do you think it's better that, like in other sports, which would be the norm is that the coach is retired or just doesn't play chess anymore? I wondered how you felt about that.
Yeah, okay. So my personal opinion on this issue, I have not been. I retired from chess in 2008, so that's like 15 years.
Okay.
I have not. I've played probably one or two tournaments since then, so you can say I have not played chess in the last 15 years. And
Mhm.
here there could be an issue because I may be outdated in my uh, perception of things. I may have dinosaur era convictions about many aspects of the game, how chess should be learned and played, and so on. And also, when you don't play in tournaments, your chess thinking skills are greatly affected. Um, like, for example, calculation. This is a first casualty. But for me, like, chess training is a full-time job. That's how I look at it, and we have to really invest a lot of time um, to be a good trainer. So I talk a lot with the students, why they are doing what they are doing, what is the thought process behind, and I'm also learning in the process. But I think without the computer, I'll be a very bad trainer, especially in giving positions. To give good positions on variety of topics, without the computers, I'll be totally helpless. But since that is taken care of, I can get very difficult positions for any level of player, and really make them work hard in various aspects of the game. So because of that, it makes me believe, like, a trainer should be focusing on being a trainer, because when you are a player, your concern is about yourself. You are wondering about your performance as well. But when you are a trainer, your concern is more outward looking. You are looking at the students, what they are going through, and then you try to help them in a more efficient way. So this is a totally different perceptions. And when we are a full-time trainer, we are able to fully focus on what our students are going through. And in my case, it has helped me a lot, I would say.
Mhm.
I have two questions. One of them is that, well, I generally agree fully, but the only thing that I felt when I completely quit chess and then played one tournament again was that I had forgotten how stressful it is being a chess player emotionally before the game. How is that for you? I mean, do you still understand how stressed your students are, or you also tend to forget that?
No, I fully realize. I think one of the reasons I pay a lot of attention to the psychological aspects of the game is simply because I understand how much stress the players go through. And I've visited many tournaments with my students, and I'm watching them play, take decisions, suffer through variety of results, and so on. So that is precisely why I feel not playing helps me, because I've been a player for many years, and I've gone through those emotions myself, and I'm in a better position to relate to the kind of pressures they go through. So I can give suggestions objectively. I'm not emotionally involved like a doctor. He doesn't have to go through the stomach pain himself to treat a patient with a stomach pain. He knows what it is, and he can be very objective in his suggestions.
And my second question is, well, you talk about giving students positions. What is your aim? Is your aim to, let's say, transfer knowledge in terms of this is an interesting positional theme, or are you more trying to present them with a challenge they have to solve in order to more train their brain, or is it always an overlap?
Yeah, so basically, how I feel is what is the objective of a player? Uh, it doesn't matter what the aim is. We want to become a world champion, or we want to become a grandmaster, or maybe reach 2200. It doesn't really matter. We can have any aim, and our aim is to achieve that. And how do we do that? By playing games, at least meeting that requirement. If I want to become a 2200, at least I should play like a 2200. There's a good chance my rating will also reflect it. So I have to basically, I have to play a game at a certain level. That means I have to take decisions at a certain level. That means I have to, it comes down to analyzing. So the quality of the analysis, it should keep getting better and better to meet my aim. So the quality of the analysis, I believe, is the key. Now, the quality of analysis in what type of position? In usually, what is happening with most players, they stick to their strengths. If I believe I'm an attacking player, then I just work a lot on attacking areas, attacking positions, and improve my attacking skills, calculation skills, sacrificing skills, and so on. But usually, with most of the players, they completely ignore their end games, their positional understanding, their defensive skills. What if the tables are turned? Our opponent is attacking us, and so on. So there are many areas which they completely ignore for the simple fact that they form an opinion that they belong to one category. So similarly, what happens with many young players? They think they are positional players, and then they simply assume they cannot be good attacking players. They cannot sacrifice. They cannot evaluate those positions well. So they kind of give up once they identify themselves to one category or the other. So when I work with players, I try to tell them you may start at different points, but what is important is eventually we should become an universal player who's good at everything. That is our target. That means I have to learn to analyze well in all kinds of situations, especially in situation. So three different types of situations we can say. One, situations I'm familiar and comfortable with, that makes me comfortable and I'm familiar. So I'll be in a different mindset when I'm analyzing those positions, and I'll be in a different mindset when the position is very uncomfortable for me or I'm not familiar. So in those situations, our analytical skills usually drop drastically. So training, I feel, should happen in all these three areas. One, where they are familiar and comfortable, and especially areas which make them very uncomfortable, where they feel incapable. I'm not good in these areas. So we have to make them good and confident in those areas as well. So basically, trying to teach them to analyze in all kinds of situations. So I try to feed them positions initially to make them comfortable, give them positions where they feel comfortable and familiar, and gradually make it more and more difficult in those areas so they become good in handling very difficult situations in their core areas. And then we start working on areas that makes them very uncomfortable by giving them easy positions, and when they're able to solve them, gain confidence, gradually raise the level of difficulty, and make them good eventually in those areas as well.
Yeah, that's yeah, Peter. I wanted to ask you actually about this. So, like over the past few years, like Magnus's style, I think, has maybe changed a bit. Where particularly in the run where he went 110 games unbeaten or something like that, he actually seemed to play quite a lot of sharper positions than he had in the past, and he was winning a lot of games with black. So was that like a conscious decision for him to go for more complex positions because he found it more interesting than the kind of the positions we stereotypically associate Magnus with? And like, were you involved with that?
I think so, yes. I think it was a somewhat conscious choice to, I mean, well, be more universal, and also maybe you could also see it as an involvement of the opponents, that they started understanding that, well, Magnus would do certain things to them, let's say beat them in the end game, whatever. He's famous for these kind of things. And that, well, also, well, one has to respect the opponents. They are extremely bright guys as well. So they would adapt to this strategy. And I think we felt that, well, they might even start bluffing, that they would, give Magnus some objective chances that he wouldn't take because he will go into his areas. And, well, we thought it's important to make statements in terms of, well, Magnus is universal and that he can punish them because, well, we cannot allow them to bluff in terms of, well, they will avoid end games because they know, okay, we can give Magnus attacking chances, he's not going to take them. Of course, we need to make a statement that, well, he's capable of doing that. I mean, it's like sometimes they say in tennis that, well, if your forehand is best, you need to improve your backhand in order to play your forehand more in a way. And, well, we felt that Magnus should be more rounded like that. But I think also, I mean, we just got caught up in the process and started enjoying it in a way. And I think, well, Magnus generally feel, okay, life should be interesting. He should be capable of playing everything. And I mean, I think there is still stylistic choices that fits Magnus better than others. But I mean, for instance, well, he played the Sicilian against Caruana in a World Championship match. If that was bright, I don't know. It was incredibly interesting, at least, right? And I think also, if you want to have a very long career being the best, you also need to, I mean, do certain things, or at least Magnus needs to do it. Maybe Kasparov could just be, you know, his sort of same self all the time because maybe the idea of winning was enough for him. But I thought for Magnus, he probably wanted some kind of other development. But well, it's something that we spoke about and tried to aim for. But in I mean, well, what Ramesh describes is incredibly systematical work where, okay, I want to improve these things. The player says they have very open discussions about it. Ramesh will find positions, they will try to solve them, we will see how they react. It sounds in a more scientific ways, while mine would more be, okay, well, in this prep, I would say, maybe you go in this direction, look at these games a bit. I mean, no, it's clear what Ramesh does reminds me of university in sense of high level of material. I mean, not like a high school where you're just teaching the students, but more that there is a lot of interactions with them there. While Magnus is, to say that he's like an artist is a bit too strong, but it's not far off in the way that it's a more creative and random process. I almost wanted to ask Ramesh that, well, when we talk about the absolute best players in the world, you said that, well, you think hard work is defining, not necessarily talent. Well, how do you see the best players? I mean, Magnus, Caruana, Ding, well, Nakamura. How do you see the mix of talent and hard work there?
Yeah, so hard work, the way I understand hard work is probably slightly different from what most of us equate to. So most of us believe hard work is more work. So I try to emphasize this to young children. So basically, like I believe there are certain qualities which will help us in becoming strong players, and these qualities are better imbibed at a young age. So I talk about all these qualities, explain them in very clear terms which they can relate to. So what I normally do, let's say if I want to explain hard work to my students, I will take 2 pawns and then say I want to build my biceps, and I start doing like this with the pawns. And I say, like, if I'm going to do this for the next 10 hours and for the next 5 years, will I be building some significant biceps? Every child will say no. Then I say, am I not working hard? I'm doing this for 10 hours a day. So it's a lot of work, but it's not hard work. And then I say, like, let's say if I try to push this building, push this wall, and then I put a lot of effort in trying to push the wall, nothing happens. The building just stays there. But if I do this for maybe 20 seconds, maybe I'll put some biceps in this 20 seconds. And if I do this every day, I will start putting muscles. So then I ask the kids, like, what do you learn? So this 10 hours of effort is hard work, or this 20 seconds of effort? So basically the point is, what I'm trying to make is, one, hard work is about the intensity of the effort. So if I'm going to see chess for 1 hour, I can eat popcorn, listen to music, watch a movie, and also see chess. This is also possible. So the here the effort is quite casual. But when I am fully involved in that activity, then I believe that is hard work. So one, I am fully involved in what I am doing, and two, I am putting my best effort into that activity. Then I believe it is hard work. So it's not the quantity alone. Quantity also makes a difference. The longer we spend time with chess, more we can cover in such long hours. But I give more emphasis on the quantity aspect. And the second I would say is, hard work is, most of us, as I mentioned earlier, we prefer to work on things that we feel comfortable and we like. But hard work is also coming out of your comfort zone and putting a good effort in learning things that does not come easily to us. So there are some things that will not come easily to me, and I have to put a very good quality of effort and time into mastering those areas as well. So this is how I see hard work. So from this aspect, all the successful people, like I said, the 200 or odd players, let's say about 2600, they have in their own way learned these things and they have been applying, and that's why I believe they are all strong. And more efficiently they do this, the higher they grow. And there are other aspects as well. I have seen many 2650 players who are very insecure when they compare themselves with players about 2750, let's say, and then they feel I'm not good enough. So these kind of issues are there with many players, and recently I came to know that many 2700 players also feel, have these, some of these insecurities. So on the other side, one is about the work ethics, on the other side is about how we, one, learn to deal with these insecurities, lack of confidence, or low self-esteem issues, and the other is how we can avoid getting in this mess altogether. So from young age it is possible to teach an alternative way of looking at things so that these issues don't crop up so easily.
So I mean, well, you're basically saying, I mean, someone can be working 14 hours a day clicking with the computer, looking at openings. That is not hard work by definition. That's just spending a
No.
lot of time.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
you say is hard work is that, well, you know that you have some issues that are uncomfortable for you. For instance, I don't dare play the Sicilian. I try to make too many quick draws, and that I address these issues and I try to do something proper around. That is hard work. Or how should I
That is
understand?
one aspect of the hard work. But the thing is, like, now again, one of the issue is, like, whenever I'm going to confront uncomfortable or unfamiliar areas, I my mind needs to be good. For example, usually people do this when they have a bad tournament, when they have get bad results. They try to address their weak areas, but probably that is not a good time because we are already pessimistic and not receptive. When we are in a negative frame of mind, we are not receptive to changes. We will want to stick to our strength areas. We wouldn't want to try new things or take risks. So, but when we are in good form, when we are believing in ourselves, then we are more open minded, I would say. That is a good time to address our problem areas. So when we are in struggling with some issue, if the form is good, it's better to directly address it. If our mind is not in good form, not in good shape, if you are pessimistic or lacking confidence, it's better not to worry about what we are doing wrong. It's better to stick to what we are doing well and try to do it well. And once we gain the confidence and the form, then we have to address the difficult areas. So the timing also, in my view, is important.
Uh, can I ask something? Yeah. Well, but I mean, I thought what you talk about is long term things. How do you find the confidence to, well, that your student will not kick you away because you're trying to do some very long term thing and he loses the next game? And, well, I mean, well, for instance, now you're training for the candidates tournament. I assume the goal is that you want to perform in 4 months, not that you want to build yourself strength wise for in 5 years or something like this. I mean,
Okay. so so I always tell my students, like, we are in this for long term, and I generally don't work with players who are in this for short term. So, like, many players come to me and say, like, okay, I have the national championship coming in 2 months, can we start working? I usually say no. I don't believe in working in short term. So even when Prague qualified for the candidates, I told, like, okay, candidates is just one stop in the journey. So it's like we are going from point A to point Z. This is probably, I don't know, maybe F or G or H, whatever. So candidates is in itself a very important milestone, an important tournament, but I don't think we are preparing for the candidates per se, and we are still trying to work on a long-term basis. So basically, I feel like we have to keep building our strengths, and wherever we have developed weaknesses over the years, try to address them at the right moment in the right way. And so our aim is simply growing. How I see chess journey is like a small plant trying to become a big tree. So we don't really know when the tree has fully grown. So we are just still trying to grow and grow and grow, and let's see how long we can grow. So that's the approach we are taking.
but sorry for asking here again, but well, the impression I get is almost like, I mean, well, no, it's like there is zero fear in you of losing your job, as far as I can hear. I mean, like for instance, well, for a world, I mean, I worked with Wishy for a long time, but you will always think, okay, if this World Match Championship match goes wrong, it's over, and maybe that's how it should be. I mean, for me, it almost sounds like you are choosing who to teach rather than you are afraid of losing a student. And there's a lot of confidence and trust there, which I really like. But I mean, do you have a 10-year contract, or you just, well, you guys trust each other? How does that work?
No, it's like, I think trust should be earned, not it should be deserved. So I tell my students, it's like, for me, my biggest aim is my student should feel there is no need for me. That's when I succeed. That's how I see, because whatever he has to learn from me, I've already taught from my side, and there's nothing more I can teach to him. So then I see myself as a successful with that student. So I don't. That's another thing. Probably I should have clarified earlier. I don't teach to. I don't see teaching as a living. I don't do this for money, because this is what makes me happy, and this is what I believe I can be good at. I can contribute in a meaningful way. So for me, it doesn't matter if a student doesn't like my approach and leaves me. I'm perfectly fine to let him go.
Yeah, that actually brings me on to a question I wanted to ask about, like, as a coach, what motivates you now? Like, what's the thing that like gets you out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning? But like, what's the thing that kind of keeps you going through the day?
Yeah, basically, like, for me, only few things are very important. One, I really want to make a difference in my students' life, in their chess, and I just don't want them to become good chess players with a shitty personality. I want them
Hmm.
to have a good personality, be a good human being as well in the process. So I am trying to teach just through these values they cultivate. So they have to. So for us, like when I work with the students, I try to tell them. So we are not playing just for the rating or the titles or becoming popular or making money all that is kind of a byproduct. So it's like the analogy I normally give is like, so if I am walking in the sun, my shadow will be on the floor, and the shadow is basically like the outcomes, like whether I make money, good money, become popular, or I have more followers on Twitter, whatever. So that is the reflection, and my effort is me. I am walking, so my shadow should follow me. I will not run behind the shadow. So all these things, they should come to you. We don't go towards them. So then why do we put the effort? So when we can kind of dissociate ourselves from these aspects, then we can really focus on the core issues, which is how can I learn chess more effectively. So then we are not worried about I lost today, I won today, my rating went up or rating went down. If we ask most of the players, if we take a survey, we'll be amazed. Most become happy when the rating goes down. Most become sad when the rating goes up and down. Their sadness and happiness level correspondingly varies. And as a result, most players are not focused on learning the game and getting better. uh, I'm not talking about the, let's say, about 2600, but most of the players, they get stuck with these minor issues in my view. So the critical issue is how we learn chess and what effort I'm putting to learning this game. So the way I try to convince my students is like, typically everyone sees like win, draw, loss, something like this in this hierarchy. But I try to tell them it's like win, draw, and loss, something like this. And there are three different experiences. It's like vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, something like this. They are just different experiences you go through. Some of them are pleasant, some of them are very unpleasant. But if you are in this for long run, you will have to face these unpleasant situations quite often, and we have no idea when we are going to face these unpleasant situations. So we better deal with them maturely as and when that happens, so we don't spend much of our time thinking about these things. So that's my philosophy regarding the results
Yeah,
part.
that's good. Yeah, and you also mentioned that you want to bring up good chess players, but also who are kind of good people, which does bring me on to something that I wanted to talk to both of you about, and it's that we've had a lot of discussion in the chess world recently about cheating, which doesn't seem to be going away over the past couple of years. And I thought, like, from the point of view of a coach, I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about cheating because I think, well, I mean, you guys would probably be better to answer, but do you think like coaches have a responsibility to like instill a kind of anti-cheating philosophy amongst students so that from a young age people kind of think of this as an unacceptable thing?
Peter, you want to go first?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I mean, I have only worked for Vichy and Magnus, and I mean, they have their own opinions of that. We have, I mean, discussed these things, but I might be an influence, but not that strong a one. I mean, I don't know if we'll talk about that, so I'll just mention it now. But for me personally, I mean, I have just tried to avoid being suspected of these things by staying away from playing halls and stuff like this. But maybe you'll handle that separately later. Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe we should just skip to Ramesh. He can answer the question as well. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I try to, Uh, but I believe this online cheating is kind of a recent phenomenon, probably post-pandemic or during the pandemic. This kind
Mm-hmm.
of flared up very much. That's what I see from my personal experience. Earlier, when I was teaching online students, I did not get the feeling that the students were using technology to find better moves during the class. But during the pandemic, I saw like probably 4 out of 10 of my students were using engines to find the moves. And it came as a big shock for me. And I started wondering why suddenly this is happening. Now, many young children suddenly they had to attend the school curriculum as well through online classes during the pandemic. The Because the classes schools were not open, the learning was happening online, and they became very tech savvy at a very young age, and then they also learned many shortcuts. What was happening in school syllabus curriculum is if a teacher gives them a topic and asks them to write a essay, Many children, my daughter told me, like they just go to, there are some websites where you can just type the topic, and in few seconds you will get a 100 word or 200 word essay. And there are other websites where you can, so everyone of the student from the classroom, they go to this website, they will get the same output. Then the teacher will easily catch. So there are other websites where you can feed this, and it gives the same 100 thing in different words in 100 different versions.
Mm.
So the children have learned at a young age to how to navigate the system smartly, and they don't. So initially I thought probably it's that the ethics of the children have gone to dogs. But the more I talk to those children, why are you doing this, a few answers I got was, one, they are trying to impress the teacher or impress the other students by their clever answers. And also, to they just feel like they're using technology in a more efficient way than others. So they've come up with some clever solutions to the problems. So that's how they see. They don't see it as a cheating issue. So this was a new perception. Yeah, it's a little sad that many young children, many youngsters, they've got to see this as an acceptable behavior. I think the role of the society is to educate them.
Yeah. And from the other side, and I guess maybe Peter, you can't really talk too much about this, but I guess when you have a student who is suspicious of someone else cheating or has been accused of cheating themselves in, real games, like that must be quite difficult to do. I mean, I guess, I don't know if you've ever had this problem, Ramesh, with your students maybe being suspicious of someone else, and like how do you deal with that? Because I think that's quite an important thing for like professional players to learn to deal with, because it's probably not going anywhere soon.
Yeah. So at the higher level, I believe like it's very essential that FIDE quickly comes up with basic do's and don'ts, and which should be in place in all tournaments of beyond a certain level. So let's say if five or more grandmasters are playing in an open tournament, or I mean, they should come up with very clear criteria where if some many good players are playing, there should be some minimum um, things in place, put in place. For example, like a 15-minute delay should be the minimum in most tournaments, and there should be other measures as well. And regarding at the lower level, yeah, it is very difficult because many times some it's just a simply paranoia. Like we just suspect something is going wrong, and then we react to it, and we form an opinion the player is not strong enough, and when they play good chess we become suspicious. So this is also happening a lot. As a result, a lot of incorrect accusations are flying all around. But there are these are real issues. I do believe there is a lot of cheating happening in over the board games as well than is commonly believed. And yeah, so this should be approached from a technical viewpoint. One approach currently, it seems to be to prevent people from cheating by delaying live relay and so on. But it should also happen that those who are cheating are caught in the process. So mechanism should be devised. This can put people a fear in their mind, because if they feel like, okay, I cannot use technology in this tournament, I'll just use it in the next tournament when I can. But if I realize that I may be caught in the act, then I would hesitate more. So it should be tackled from both the viewpoints, I would say.
Yeah.
I do have some experience. I mean, when Wishy became the world champ, sorry, when Wishy didn't become the world champion in 2005 in St. Louis, it was won by Topalov, and there was some were making accusations almost openly, I would say. Then Vichy had to play him in a world championship match in 2010, and of course we were talking about it there. I think generally what our approach was that if Topalov is cheating, we're gonna lose. It's as simple as that. I mean, and we basically accepted the fact that that's how it is. I think even at some point after two games, we thought, okay, they hit exactly at the weakest spots in our opening preparations. I mean, we almost started thinking, okay, Did they actually have access to our notes or something like that? I mean, you can easily build paranoia, but well, Vichy won the match. Things went well with openings from there, so it didn't seem realistic. But of course, paranoia has crept in much earlier in a way, and I think well, Vichy was he had some kind of expert with him that was perhaps sitting in the playing hall looking for signals or something like that. But generally speaking, I think we were just resignatory towards it. So it's not a very new theme, but I agree with Ramesh that probably pandemics has pushed a lot to it, and now it's of course taking a lot of.
Yeah. Okay, so we are actually recording on Vishy Anand's birthday. So happy birthday, Vishy. I'm sure you're listening. Which means it's a good time to talk about, Indian chess in general, which, Vishy has had some small amount of influence over the last couple of decades. I think he's, most people maybe have never heard of him, but I think he's played his part. But I wanted to ask, like, how do you feel about like the current state of Indian chess, and the candidates is coming up, and like, how do you
Yeah.
feeling about that?
So the first is happy birthday, Vishy. Uh, and yeah, I came to chess the day it was published in newspaper that Vishanan became a grandmaster, India's first grandmaster. So I read in the newspaper, and I told my father, "Can I start playing chess?" So that's how I came to chess. So I know the kind of influence Anand has had over a generation of Indian children, probably over 4 decades. So he has been a tremendous influence, a positive influence for almost all the chess players from India, I would say. I'm very grateful to him, and also he has been a very good mentor to many top players. Like he makes it a point, like every time someone achieves something big, like becomes a grandmaster, let's say, he will personally call them, wish them, and invite them to his house, go some games, give some advice, and so on. So he genuinely cares for the growth of other players from India, and he makes it a point to spend some time with them personally. So that's a very nice gesture, I would say. And regarding the current currently we have Prague with it in the men's and Vaishali in the women's playing in the candidates. So, and we are just hoping to see Gukesh also coming in to the candidates fold. So it's already a good scenario, a very healthy scenario, I would say. And I believe everyone is making preparations. All these three players are already have started their preparation for the candidates in their own ways. And regarding the general scenario in India, it's very positive, very healthy. More and more young children are hoping to become strong chess players. But in a way, there is a downside as well, because everyone, some of these players have set a very high bar. Like let's say Gukesh, he became an IM. Gukesh and Prag, they became an international master at the age of 10 and grandmaster at the age of 12. So they have set a very high bar for others to follow, emulate. But most of the parents are desperately trying to make their children beat these records. And this kinds of puts enormous pressure on these young shoulders. And that's the downside to it. They are very ambitious, probably too ambitious for their children's good. Uh, Having said that, a lot of tournaments are happening now in India. More grandmasters have become trainers. So we have uh, many young grandmasters in their early 20s becoming trainers. And I'm sure in the coming years, it will start showing even better outputs.
Yeah, and there does seem to be slowly we're getting more tournaments in India. I think after we had the Olympiad last year,
Yeah.
which I guess was the first really big event to be in India. There's also the Tata Steel India version, which is really cool. And then we're hopefully gonna have this round robin very soon, I think, which is maybe going to give Gukesh another chance at the candidate spot. Do you have any more information about this? Because I haven't seen it like officially announced anywhere yet. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, so I believe the event is going to happen. It's going to happen in Chennai.
Mm-hmm.
And Gukesh Arjun. Uh, I have seen the players list, and it's an impressive field. Probably the average rating is around 2,700. And I believe Lanier was supposed to play as well Dominguez, but he chose to play in Sitges, I believe. He's going to play in Spain, so to fulfill the norms of having to play abroad. Yeah, I believe the tournament is going to happen, and Sagar Shah probably will know much better, more details on this. I've seen the players list; it's quite
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, it should be a very nice event. And I wonder, do you think if Gukesh doesn't win this one, do you think he'll get another tournament in before the end of the year? Because there's still a little bit of time left.
I'm not sure. Like in India, it doesn't happen that way. I'm sure what I mean. You understand what I mean?
I Yeah, I just kind of wondered, like, if they play this tournament and then Gukesh doesn't win, do they just lock the doors and say, okay, guys, you can't leave? We've got your passports. We just keep playing until until things work out. But no, we'll see. Yeah, it's a very interesting part of the cycle. I enjoy the the more chaotic element of trying to get as many games as possible before the end of the year. But it does seem like hopefully for future cycles they'll have these things a little bit more
In advance.
clear, so that people can plan their schedules and not have to rush around trying to organize a super tournament with 2 weeks notice. It seems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all of my questions. I don't know if you have anything else, Peter, to add.
Yeah, well, first of all, I also want to wish Vishy a happy birthday. But in connection with Vishy, I mean, how do you see his influence in for Indian chess? You see him as, let's say, a role model that showed that well, being the absolute best is possible, or do you also see that he's some that people try to copy his style in a more direct way? And you said using him as a mentor, I would
Yeah, he
say.
has been influencing people in different ways, in all the ways you've mentioned. One, he is the first grandmaster from our country and also the first chess world champion. And he has shown the rest that we can be the best player in the world. That has given us a lot of confidence. And I remember when I started working with Prague and Vaishali when they were young, and I asked them like, "What do you want to do?" They said like, "We want to become world champion." And for Prague, he was saying, "I want to become 2900." So, uh, uh, yeah, so he has shown that we can be the best, and we can also dare to dream high, dream big,
Yeah,
and has shown it with his performance consistently. And the second is, as a human being also, like, he's very easy to move around, very pleasant, doesn't throw his weight around much. So very nice human being as such, and that is also something many players, if you see with many Indians, they are very quite down to earth and very open to move around. So, and also work ethics, very hardworking. So I remember when he became the world champion uh, the following year when Topalov won the tournament. Then when Anand came home just after 2 or 3 days from Mexico, uh, he so myself and a few of my friends, we were having a training camp. Few of fellow grandmasters, we were having a training camp in Chennai, and he called Suresh Shekhar Ganguly and asked what is he doing. And he said, we are having a training camp in our place. Then he said, why don't you all come to my home? So we all went, some 5 6 grandmasters, and he started immediately seeing chess. We were analyzing chess for some 4 5 hours. So he is a guy who just became a world champion 2 3 days ago, and he's still hungry for more chess. So his work ethics has been very impressive as well. That's something we are also trying to learn ourselves.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Yeah, I think that's everything then. So thank you very much for joining us today, Ramesh. It was
Yeah,
been very interesting.
my pleasure. Thanks for the
yeah,
invitation.
and good luck with the training camp, both for the result in the candidates, but also for the long term goals. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
thank you, Peter.
Yeah,
sounds great. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks a lot. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.